Start the recording and welcome. Small but mighty crew tonight. It is New Year's Day. So knew there was going to be a small crowd tonight, but anybody watching this, hopefully a lot of you guys will rewatch this and hopefully get something out of it. But Wendy, Tucker, good to have you guys on. And I don't know, feel free to kind of share tonight too and interact a little bit, especially since it's smaller. There's just a couple of you guys. So, gosh, tell me, both, there's only two of you on. What was something great that happened over the holidays? Because we just had Christmas, we just had New Year's. I mean, goodness gracious, it's 2025. I can't believe it. So, what was a win? What was something good that happened, Wendy?
Um, Something just popped up on my screen. Um, yeah, so I will start off with saying one of my wins is just being able to spend some good outdoor time. I went with my son on Sunday since we had such wonderful weather outside and took our dog out to Wilderness Park and had a nice walk out there. And today we started off the new year with what is it called? The first day hike out at Platte uh, Platte River State
Oh,
Park. So
awesome.
it was our
Yeah.
first time out there, and that was really cool. So my son and my brother went with us, so kind of had a pretty neat group out there, and that was really cool. So
That's so
yeah.
cool. And getting outside, getting exercise, getting the sunshine,
Hmm.
spending time with people you love. That's awesome. Good job. Good
Yeah.
work. Tucker, how about you? I already know because you just told us. I mean, geez Louise, where have
Yeah,
you been? Rough
I
life.
was gonna I was gonna say something similar. I think my wins have been just that I was able to spend some time with my family, my wife's or my extended family on my wife's side, my brother-in-laws. Haven't seen them in a few months, so I was able to catch up with them. Did a ton of walking as well, all around kind of with the activities we did while we were there, and had an opportunity this afternoon to read through my initial summary and put together some questions and some goals, to kind of
Yeah.
start the new year off right.
Sweet. Where tell everybody where you just were though, because you were not just in like the US even.
Yeah. So my wife has a cousin in Guatemala City, and we went and visited them, and then from there we took a shuttle to Antigua, Guatemala, and did some stuff there. Did like an ATV tour. Um,
Sweet.
did what else did we do? Ce- Celebrated New Year's. Did some like activities around Antigua, and just kind of did some exploring and spending time with family. So yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you guys for sharing and everybody watching. Think about and meditate on like just the stuff that you had going on that was beautiful and the things you're grateful for. We're going to actually talk, I mean not a lot about that tonight, but I'm going to share something about the win thing. You know, I always do that and some of you guys probably get annoyed at me. Whatever, I don't care because there's science behind it, y'all. And I know I've talked about it a little bit before, but so I actually had. Can you guys still hear me? I feel like I'm choppy on
Yes.
my end. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
My screen is like showing me talking at one pace, and anyway, as long as you can hear me. So the last time we met, which was what 2 weeks ago, probably, we talked about cholesterol, triglycerides, kind of like the lipids and like some of the myths around that, some of the truth around it. Now, I put together a part two for that. I really, really, and honestly, maybe this is meant to be, because not that tonight's talk isn't important. I think everybody can get something out of this. But next week, I'm going to delay that talk until next week. And man, everybody needs to listen to that one. So please, if you're watching this or listening to this, be here live next week so we can interact a little bit. There might be some questions. I'm going to cover a little bit more about cholesterol, some things that, again, some new things that you probably don't know, you've probably never heard before. And we're going to cover some stuff about statin medications specifically, which, if you're not on statins, you know somebody who is. It is still the number one prescribed medication in America. And again, we're going to kind of go over, is there a time, is there a place for it, or is it overprescribed? What can we do to get off of them, etc. And so some other details that you guys are going to want to know, whether it's for you or maybe a family member. that has to take that kind of medication. So please be here for that. It's going to be a pretty powerful talk, I believe. But tonight, I just put this together earlier this afternoon because I'm sitting here. I'm like, you know what? It's New Year's. There's some things around New Year's resolutions and goals that I was thinking of. I was reading some stuff on, and I wanted to share with you guys. So let me just kind of jump right into it here. Most New Year's resolutions, I don't think this is a surprise to anybody, but most of them fail. 80% by February. I mean, like a few weeks of maybe 4 weeks in, 80% of people have already kind of given up on whatever resolution they might have made. And we all know also that a lot of these New Year's resolutions and goals that we set are based around health, right? I mean, people want to lose weight, people want to look better, people want to feel better, they want to get to the gym more, they want to eat healthier, and it just doesn't last. And so you guys, if you've talked to me at all, you know that one of my principles is small sustainable steps, and change takes time, especially changes that are going to last. So yes, I know a lot of us get so anxious, or we get maybe impatient. I know that's the case for me, guys. So I'm looking in the mirror because I have to tell myself this and remind myself of this. When I want to make a change in my life, I have to do it the right way, because I could tell you guys dozens and dozens and dozens of things over the course of the last, shoot, even 5 to 8 to 10 years, when I've really transformed my personal health, that I've quote unquote failed at. And you guys also know, if you're around me, I don't even like the word failure. It's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth when we don't maybe meet a goal or stick to something. But there's some science behind this that I want to share with you guys. And if you were here a number of weeks ago when I had a guest on, Dr. Troy Getch, who was a physical therapist, he talked a little bit about this, that I'm going to kind of go a little bit deeper in. But even inside of this program, I had to put this line in there because, a lot of us feel like we might be failing even in the midst of this, whether you're in the membership or a 16-week program or whatever you're doing with me, because gosh, maybe I'm not seeing the results I wanted or I thought I would. You just honestly, like, discipline and time and patience, because if you're doing the right things, guys, just think about it this way. Sorry, I got a puppy in the background. She's having some fun back there, apparently, chasing her own tail. Now I lost my train of thought, but if you think about what I was going to say, is if you think about how many years have you been living maybe not the healthiest? How many years, how long have we been like developing habits and patterns in our life that have gotten us to the place that we're at, right? If you put that in perspective, a month, 3 months, 6 months, even a year, that is such a small fragment or fraction of time. So you really do. If you're going to do this the right way, it is truly a lifestyle. If you want to hit certain goals, it's truly a lifestyle change. Okay. So that's why this is the case. Most people don't have the right mindset. And again, the science of how the brain works is pretty fascinating, and we're going to go over a little bit of that today. And some of you guys might know this stuff, but a lot of this stuff was, some of it was even new to me, as I was reading. And of course, I want you all to succeed. I want to succeed in my life and my health. So this is what this is all about. So understanding how your brain and body are wired for change is really important. And that's kind of the crux of this whole thing, is we have to understand neurology and just really how the brain works. Okay. So here are some of the top reasons your brain. So if we start thinking about, okay, I have this resolution or I have this goal in mind, it's literally oftentimes a quote unquote failure of the brain, like your neurology, because the brain doesn't align with what you're like maybe thinking, like what you want to change, that goal that you set. And here's some of the top reasons. Number one, too vague. Like your brain literally gets confused if it's too vague of a goal. Number two, unrealistic expectations. This can lead to overwhelm in your brain. It can lead to anxiety. sometimes even depression, because it's, you start to shame and guilt yourself if you're not reaching your goals, etc. So we have to have realistic expectations. And I kind of, that's one of the reasons I mentioned just a minute ago in the opening of, how long did it take for us to get wherever we're at? And we're all in a different place. Some of us are a lot healthier than others, and others are really struggling with a lot of things for a lot of years, and everywhere in between. So for you, it's an individual road, it's an individual journey, but we just have to start thinking realistically, but also optimistically as well, because things can change. Like we know that things can change with physiology, with biochemistry, even with neurology. And again, oh, so here we go, Wendy. Wendy's gonna laugh. We were joking before I started recording because it's like I think this is gonna be a short talk, and then of course you guys know me. I start thinking and think blah blah. So I wasn't going to talk about neuroplasticity, but that word just came to my head because as I'm talking about this, it's like neurology can change. And maybe you've heard the word neuroplasticity, but it's a fascinating science of the nervous system and the brain. What it means is neuroplasticity is it's plastic. Your nervous system is moldable, it's changeable. Just like if you heat plastic up, you can mold it and change it in different shapes. Now, here's if there's a downside, the downside is, and it's been cool because Harvard has done a lot of research in the developing child, for example. So, like the ages from 0 to 8 years old is like you can change neurology like you wouldn't believe. And then after that, it starts slowly getting harder and harder and harder, right? So, obviously, what my point is the older we are, the harder it is to change some of these things, right? These hardwired patterns. It's not impossible. It just means we might have to light a little bit more of a fire and get it a little bit warmer in order to be able to mold it to the shape that we want. So again, that kind of all plays into optimistic, but yet realistic at the same time. Okay. And then number 3, all or nothing thinking. This kind of sets you up for failure. That shame, that guilt, like, oh my gosh, if I don't succeed in XYZ, then it's all a waste of time or whatever the situation may be. So trying to get your mind out of that way of thinking. Your brain loves efficiency. That's how the nervous system is built. And thus, because it likes to be efficient, it actually can resist change quite often. So go back to that neuroplastic thing. It takes some heat to get things warmed up to be able to change and mold them, right? So it's going to resist a little bit. That plastic might be a little bit hard to bend. Does that make sense to everybody? And so I know some of you guys are nerds like me. So here you go. Here's a little bit more of the nerdy stuff for you. I just had to throw this in case you're a nerd like myself. So habits are wired into a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, the brain's basically autopilot system. So in this picture you see on the right, it's basically kind of that red area right in the middle. So kind of deep in the center of your brain, these habits are hardwired into it. Now, again, just like an electrician, you can change hard wiring, and that goes back to the neuroplasticity effect that I just mentioned. When you try to change too much at once, so go back to my philosophy of small, sustainable steps that are going to last. This is why, guys, this is why the science of it. When you try to change too much all at once, the prefrontal cortex, so the front part of your brain right behind your forehead here, is the decision-making part of your brain. It literally gets overwhelmed, right? And then it's just not going to succeed and work like you want it to, okay? Without quick wins or reinforcement, your brain defaults to old patterns. So here's one of the spots I had to throw it in there. The wins. Like I know a lot of us are shy and we don't like to maybe like volunteer, but man, even as Wendy and Tucker, since you guys are the only two on the call tonight, like even as you guys were sharing, like I literally felt a little elated, like just happy, like for you, Wendy, being outside, getting exercise, spending time with family, here in Tucker, spending time with family and in a tropical place. Like I wasn't there. Shoot, I wish I would have been. Thanks for the invite, Tucker. I appreciate that. But it's like, man, like, I don't know. Guys, you understand that releases, like, even hearing other people's wins releases dopamine. Dopamine is a powerful drug, literally natural drug, natural thing in our bodies that activate centers of our brain to help us with this stuff. So you don't need other people. Like, give yourself grace, give yourself wins, like celebrate small things on a daily basis and even through your day. And if you start making that a habit, man, you're going to notice a difference with your mood. Just the efficacy of getting things done, reaching those goals, and those. So celebrating wins for yourself and with others is just really, really important. And that's one of the reasons that I continue to do that at the beginning of these calls, even when no one wants to participate. So I'm going to be right back, guys. Okay. I heard something and Puppy was chewing on a little girl's shoe. So I can't have that. All right. So let me get this out of the way. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do about this? Let's go over a couple things. So these are the 5 tips, just real quick, pretty easy things to comprehend. But honestly, it's like, just think through this. Are you actually doing these things? And these 5 things, if you start to just write these down, take screenshots, whatever, rewatch this, write them down, just start to practice these things in your daily life. And man, your habits are going to form easier and you're going to reach your goals in a much better way. So number one, and this is the part Dr. Troy a couple months ago I think he talked kind of something similar to this, but it's set SMART goals, SMART. So S stands for specific. Be very clear and specific about what you want to achieve. No big, like vague things like we talked about on the first slide. M stands for measurable. So quantify your progress. You want to get 8,000 steps 5 days of the week, for example. That would be very specific and measurable. And it wouldn't also be unrealistic because maybe there's a couple days a week that you're working 12-hour days and it's just like you're exhausted and it's just not possible, right? It's just an example. But be very specific and measurable. So you can do that with workouts, you can do it with steps, you could do that with how many meals do you prep for yourself for the week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, it can be so many different things. A is achievable. So start with small, manageable changes. As I always preach, small, sustainable, achievable steps. R stands for relevant. Relevant to what? Well, this is going to be something you guys probably have all heard from me is what's your deeper why? Like, why are you here? Why do you care about your health? Right? So align these goals with that deeper sense of why, right? Is it just you feel cruddy and you just, man, my why is I just have to have more energy to get through my day. Your why could be, I want to be a better father. I want to be a better mom. I want to be a better grandma, grandpa. I want to, whatever it may be. What's your why, right? Think about that. And then T is time bound. So add a deadline to create a little urgency. Now, there's a big difference between urgency, like healthy urgency, and anxiety and panic attacks. Okay. We obviously don't want to create that. But I know a lot of us, I know I'm wired this way that if I have a deadline, man, I'm going to get stuff done, right? I'm going to put my brain on focus. I'm going to get into it and I'm just going to get it done. There's no question about it, right? Now, I don't get super stressed out. So again, you might be wired different than I do. So, all of us are going to need to think through this. Like, what does that urgency look like in a healthy way for you, right? It might look different from each one of us. If you have questions on any of this, like maybe you just don't have any idea, get a hold of me. Let's talk through this kind of stuff for sure. Number 2 is focusing on systems. So, all systems of the body work together to create homeostasis, to create health, right? We talk about that all the time. So if your goal is the destination, here's where I want to go. The systems are the pathways to get to that goal, right? There might be one path, there might be many paths. All of these gears on the right side in that picture have to work together in order for something to work effectively and optimally, just like our bodies. All systems have to work in order for us to be healthy. Okay. So if my goal is to lose 10 pounds, okay, in the next, I don't know, I hate putting time limits on losing weight because it can just be so many different reasons, but just for sake of it. Let's say I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 90 days. The system has to be very specific. So go back to the specificity. I'm going to plan 5 balanced meals a week. I'm going to schedule my workouts this time, this day, this time, this day. I'm going to somehow track that progress, in whatever way that may be. There's apps that can do that with you. I mean, if you just want a whiteboard at your house, if you have a chalkboard, if you have a notepad in your iPhone, I mean, some way to kind of track and so you can check things off of the box, check the boxes off as you get them done. That's a really great way to focus on those systems. And I've already mentioned dopamine. You got to reward the brain. Dopamine is motivation. It's the feel good drug, euphoria. It's the reward. It gets the reward center of your brain going. So it's just that feel good neurotransmitter that we all need. And some of us are very, very low in. And one of the reasons is we just don't give ourselves enough credit, right? We don't celebrate ourselves and the things that we're doing good often enough, right? So think about that. Are you doing that or are you not? Could you be better at that? Set small achievable milestones to trigger dopamine release. So if you have this 10-pound goal, like, man, if it's 0.5 pounds, and I don't want you guys to get on the scale every 3 times a day. I mean, that's is probably a bad example, but whatever your goal is, get these milestones that you can have, celebrations. So if you get those 5 balanced meals this week, that's huge. Even if you get through today and you didn't eat out and you ate, got your protein goal, that's a win, huge win. I got my protein goal today. If you drank all your water today, huge goal, that's a win. I mean, give yourself these things, okay? Every single win, like hitting your first week of consistent workouts, getting to the gym. I know for a lot of you, whether you go to a gym or if it's a home workout that you do, whatever, just to work out and exercise can be a struggle. I know it is for a lot of you because I talked to a lot of you about this. So every single time that you get that exercise in, man, give yourself that win, okay? And then, and of course, I've said this a couple times, avoid punishing the slip ups. Like, we don't need the shame. We don't need the guilt. That's going to do the opposite of this dopamine response we want to get going. So refocus on what's next. Just refocus. Don't shame. Don't guilt. Okay, now I'm going to get back on track. And I know many of you messaged me just over the holidays and was like, okay, yeah, holidays are over. I wasn't perfect with everything. You don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. Okay. No one's perfect. Never will I be perfect or any of us. So get back on track. Get back on track with what you know you want to do. And you know what makes you feel good too. So many of you guys have said, oh my gosh, like when I cleaned up my diet, when I got rid of this, when I got rid of this, I feel so much better. I feel so much lighter. I have so much more energy. I mean, yeah, guys. And then we go have Christmas cookies and a bunch of sugar. And I know I did. And I felt miserable. It was so good and it's so addicting, but I felt miserable. So it's like, man, that's like motivation for me enough to get back on track, right? Get back on track. Build accountability is number 4. Not everybody has someone watching them. Now that sounds a little creepy, but really it's just an accountability partner. Maybe that's a spouse, maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a coworker, a friend, a neighbor, whoever it is. This is something that's really important where you can share your goals with someone. You can, ask them to keep you accountable, to check in with you. Maybe you guys are doing some of these things together. I know many of you guys have set goals with someone in your life that it's like, I'm gonna, go on a walk with them. We're gonna get our steps together, every morning or every evening, etc. You can use tools like habit trackers, apps to monitor progress, things like that if you want to. There's so much technology out there that can be helpful. Checking in weekly with someone, with yourself even, whoever that accountability partner is. And I love this. Almost nothing worth accomplishing can be done alone. I'm gonna be right back again. So no matter how many times you tell kids not to leave shoes and socks out, I mean, let's be real. I mean, yeah, she found another shoe and another pair of socks. So almost nothing worth accomplishing can be done alone. Isn't that powerful? I mean, just think about that. I don't know whose little faces there that are on that. I didn't do that, but there's some funny little faces on that on that thing right there. So, but it's so true, guys. Like, who wants to go through this life alone? Nobody, nobody. And we, when we try to do that, I know I've done that so many times where I, try to depend on my own strength and my own motivation. And man, it's oftentimes it doesn't go well. When I have friends or someone, even my kids, I think I told you guys that story a while back where I had my daughter, Raylan, who's 10, keep me accountable for every time that I had. Tucker, you wouldn't have heard this because I gave this talk a while back, but it was on mindset. And it's like, I don't have to do anything. If my mindset is I have to do the dishes, I have to mow the lawn, I have to go to work, I have to go to the gym. That is a terrible way to think about things. And I was doing that all the time. So I was like, Raylan, anytime you hear me say I have to, say, hey, daddy, you told me to tell you. And I'm like, man, it helped. It really helped because it's I don't have to, I get to, or I'm blessed to, those are the kind of things. Again, that's just an example of an accountability partner, even in my 10-year-old little girl. So it was awesome, awesome for her to learn and awesome for me to learn from her. And then number 5, finally, understand your why. So kind of what we already said, what is your deeper why? Research shows that connecting your goals to a deeper purpose improves success, right? Improves success. So connect these goals that we have to something deeper. What is it? I don't know. You guys got to think about it. You got to come up with it yourself. If you need help, let me know. But I mean, I think it's pretty easy for most of us. Like, do you want more energy to be able to play with your kids, right? I've multiple patients of mine, and just recently, one of them, I think I said this story a couple weeks ago. She was like, "Man, it's been so awesome. I've had the energy to take my son to the park." It's like it's amazing. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Maybe it's you want to avoid chronic disease. Maybe you have a chronic disease. A lot of us do. Maybe you have a lot of familial genetic stuff, you think genetics, that you want to avoid. That's a huge, deeper why. You want to be, like I said, a better partner, a better boss, worker, employee, husband, spouse, neighbor, whatever it is, guys. You guys know. What's your why? Your why anchors you when motivation fades. Motivation will fade. Motivation, if you haven't heard that, will fade. Discipline, right? And doing things in a smart, literally based on the neurology of how all of this works, this is just scratching the surface tonight, but it really is so true. You start practicing these little habits that we went over tonight, and it's going to be a change for you. So this is another great quote. A lot of you guys know who John Maxwell is. Find your why and you'll find your way. Find your why and you'll find your way, right? I love that quote because it is so true. That is it. See, I did get done early. It's 9 o'clock, the end. Let's start creating goals on these principles and watch how much more you can accomplish. So honestly, that's really what it's about. So since Tucker, Winnie, not to put you guys on the spot, if you don't want to share, that's completely fine. No pressure. But I was going to ask this because I knew that would be a quicker talk. Let me figure out how to stop my screen share here. If you guys want to share, like, maybe you could share a couple things. You could say, okay, here's my newest goals. Let's talk through how you're going to sustain them. If you want to say, I had a goal and this is what I did and it was successful. If you want to share something that's been a struggle, I mean, what do you guys have that resonated with you tonight? Anything at all?
Um, I'll share a little bit. I don't have any specific. I haven't figured out my specific what I'm trying to do moving forward that I really am ready to share. But
Okay.
one of the things I am trying to do is trying to be um more daily active, not like I'd go to the gym regular and that kind of stuff, but I've been also reading this book called Move Your DNA. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's about um it's kind of about oh shoot,
I
I'm
haven't
sorry.
read it. No, I've heard of it, but I
Okay,
haven't read it.
it's like a functional movement. So how like we sit in chairs all day versus even if we were standing at a desk all day and how that impacts how your bones and everything have developed over time and how your muscles develop and how they work together and stuff and things like,
Yeah.
we haven't been sitting on the floor or hanging or things like this. Anyways, it's a really good book. I highly recommend it. But I've been really trying to be conscious of being outdoors more and being like moving throughout the day and
Yes.
not just the, hour or so at the gym. And so to that end, like a couple of things that I've done is like I start joining, like Fleet Feet has Winter Warriors where you're supposed to do three things once, 3 times a week, a 20-minute outdoor thing, and you kind of log it over this time. And so it's like a group thing, and
Yeah.
it didn't cost anything or anything, but it's like joining these different groups that are kind of you're not trying to like win against other people, but it kind of keeps you accountable for
I was
doing
just gonna
these
say
other
that's an
things.
example of a great
Yeah.
accountability thing. So that's amazing.
And like the first day hike today, that was my brother found it on Facebook and he was like, we're gonna do this. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. My son was in. And then I invited a few more people. And then last night we were playing games and it was starting to get late. And we were like, we gotta go home and because we got this hike first thing in the morning.
Hmm.
And so like my son was like, oh, we could play and we don't have to go. Nope, we already committed. We're going and just kind of stuck to it. So we kind of held each other
Yeah,
accountable for doing those things. So
that's awesome.
that's kind of what I stick to is just trying to like sign up for stuff because if you're kind of already committed to it, then it's almost like somebody expects you, even though in reality nobody expected me to be there or not.
Yeah.
But it's just that accountability.
That's so
So
cool. I love it. I love it. And again, yeah, we'll need to chat sometime. I know we're gonna chat sometime in the
yeah,
future about direction and goals. And so be brainstorming, and then we can have that kind of chat one on one.
yeah.
And that goes for anybody too. Um, but I just love, I think that's a huge thing. Like the whole daily movement, like, yeah,
Hmm.
going and working out for an hour is amazing. And I think
Yeah.
everybody needs to do something like that, at least a few times a week. But I'll tell you what, again, I think you were on the calls, but some newer people wouldn't have been. Was it a month or two, a couple months ago? I lose track of time. I talked about some of the musculoskeletal stuff like upper cross and lower
Hmm.
cross syndromes and went into the science of like postural problems because of sitting a lot during the day.
Yeah.
And that starts when we're 5, 6 years old in school.
Hmm.
It's not like this is just a professional adult matter, guys. This is like it starts so young, sitting so often in school that so many of why so many of us have back pain and headaches and neck pain and shoulder problems and like all the things. And so it's like the more, and it's not too late, right? You just have to know what to do. So if that resonates with you, kind of what Wendy was saying, and maybe what I just said, go back in your education library and watch some of those in the musculoskeletal health folder on some of that stuff.
It,
I show some stretches to do and some other things to be aware of. So, but
it
daily
was
movement, get up and move.
actually very, very much as I was reading this book, I was like, oh, Dr. Scott would say this. Dr.
Yeah.
Scott would say this. It
Yeah.
was very much like, oh, if your, posture is off and because you've been sitting a certain way that like people overcompensate and then cause issues other places. So it was really interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you what, and when it comes to exercise as well, I know I've had a couple messages about people having some pain, back pain, knee stuff. Sometimes it is tough for me because that's my baby. Like that's my world of expertise as well. Like I did so much in rehabilitation and functional movement and but it's hard when I can't see you and like be with you. But yet if you're explaining things to me, movements that say hurt. Like, so let me just use a squat, for example, because I think everybody should squat. And there are a lot of doctors who tell people never deadlift and squat again. And it's the stupidest piece of advice I've ever heard. I've had people with severe disc herniation type patients who we've gotten to squat and deadlift again. Like these are like functional movements that you have to be able to do to function in life. So, but you have to do it smartly, right? That's the key. Is there are ways you can modify movements. It's not like I'm going to go throw somebody with back pain under a barbell and get your butt to the ground type of squats. We're going to go through progressions of things with some core stabilization, with some hip flexibility, and then also with some modifications of a squat to get you to that point, that remember that end goal being like, say, 6 months later, we want to do a barbell parallel squat. Well, how are we going to get there? Okay, so if you guys need advice in those types of areas, man, I'll tell you what, I love to help people with that kind of stuff. So maybe you guys don't always think about those things when working with me, but I'm telling you, I'm here. Use me, guys. So anyway, I blabbed. Tucker, do you have anything you wanted to shout out before you have to get on an airplane? I know you're at an airport right now getting ready to board, but and if not, that's cool, man. And maybe he's not here, and maybe he's probably he said his plane boards at like 9:15. So,
Oh no, I did hear you. I forgot to unmute myself.
oh, you're good. You have anything you want to add in?
Yeah, just real quick, myself, I'm very early um, on my path of, change, I guess, because I feel as if I've plateaued, over the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I've just been busy with life, and everything starts to pile up. Um, but I know deep down I could feel better, and could have more energy if I just made, changes. But I really need that, assistance and knowledge and that little bit of, kind of guidance on how to get there. And so that's kind of my why. But I know that I have a lot of room for improvement as far as, gut health and just feeling better and overall energy levels and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's kind of my why. And as far as I'm, excited to see what could potentially where I could get to, or where I could get, could what I could become, with a little
Yeah,
bit of um,
it's amazing.
small changes, that all a bunch of small changes that all add up to kind of a healthier lifestyle change.
That's great, man. Thank you for sharing, number one. And I'll just challenge you too, because this is kind of where I was 8 years ago, kind of when I started to find all of this functional medicine stuff and healed myself it was energy for me. And I know, Tucker, we've talked a couple times now about, energy, kind of just needing more energy to get through your days and busy, small kids. Yeah, same boat I was in. And it's like, okay, I want more energy. That's my why. But like, really, why? Like, why? So dig into that a little deeper. You don't have to do that now. I'm just saying, like, really think
Yeah,
through that. So that way you can like have it in your brain. Because I'll tell you what, when I think in my brain, if I lose track and lose focus, which I do too in my journey, in my health journey, it's like if I go back to that image, the image is literally, it's like, man, it gives me kind of the chills, because it's like, and most of you guys know this story is like, I would be so exhausted from my day in my office clinic, working and helping other people, because that's my passion, is to help and serve people, right? So it's like I'd be so exhausted mentally, physically, everything, that I'm going home to these precious little babies, right, that I brought into this world, and like giving them my leftovers. Like I was
correct.
not, the energy was not there for me physically, mentally, spiritually, anything, to be able to be what I needed to be. So that was my why. So anytime that I start drifting off the path, I pull myself back in, because I'm like, that's the why. Because I still have these three beautiful kids that are now growing. They're a lot bigger than they were. But man, they probably more now than even when they did when they were 1, 2, and 3 years old. They're 10, 7, and 5 now. Man, that's a lot of energy. Daddy needs to have energy to be able to play, hang out, talk, discipline, all the things, right? So just anyway, challenge is there for you to just kind of dig into that a little bit more, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you. Anybody, if you have anything else to add, don't let me cut us off here. It's 9:10. But hopefully you guys got something out of this. And if anybody watches the recording back and has questions, comments, concerns, get a hold of me, chat message me. We can set up a call or something anytime. So, but looking forward to 2025. I can't believe, seriously, 2025, whatever. Y2K was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? I don't even know what happened. So have a great night, Tucker. Well, pray for a safe flight so you guys get home all right. All right. And everybody else that's traveling and celebrating still, just have a great first week of the new year. Okay.
Will do. Likewise, you too.
Okay. See you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.